Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. This got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, Season 5, Episode 41. My name is Pawel the Cat with my beautiful co-host,
Evan Reynolds. Happy end of the NHL season, and welcome to a whole nother week and a half of absolute chaos in the hockey world. Because if you thought the hockey season was too long, it is not over. We got the NHL awards, we got the NHL entry draft, we got trades coming up, and we got free agent signings and UF Frenzy. So we have one more week and a special show and one more show. And Pawel, I am exhausted this week, and you've done a lot of prep this week. So I'm going to premise, if he throws a doozy at me and I don't know what he's talking about, no, he's doing it on purpose because he wants to embarrass me tonight and say I know absolutely nothing about hockey.
I would never.
I feel like it.
I would never. Maybe, but I would never. We'll see. So wherever you are tuning in, we appreciate it. Remember to give us a like. Evan, do you have your beverage?
I do.
All right. Well, cheers, because we've got a jam-packed show.
Oh,
right, Evan.
Oh, man.
Beautiful.
That's
We're going to get started.
That's cold. It's good.
We got to talk about the biggest thing, the elephant in the room, the Stanley Cup champions. The Florida Panthers have won their first ever Stanley Cup in their history of existence. Your thoughts on the series, on their lead to the Stanley Cup, and how much partying they're doing right now in Fort Lauderdale, amongst some other places that they're going to visit. Your thoughts on that?
Hey, you know what? So first of all, let's wish the Florida Panthers congratulations. You know, as everyone will tell you, it's a 7-game series. In a 7-game series, I don't care when you go out, how early you go out, how late, it's still the winner is the winner. No refs, no none of this crap. The best team won. If you're an Oilers fan, you're frustrated. You know what? Panthers were there last year. Same type of thing. I got to say, while I was cheering, I make no qualms about it. Pawel, people know we're from Edmonton. We can put that aside, and I can tell you, Florida deserved it. They found a way, but they did have 4 chances, and they almost blew it. Luckily for them, they won't go in history as the biggest choke artists.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of other stories around this, but I got to tell you, I'm happy for that non-traditional hockey market in Florida that has so much power coming out of it. Because how many, what are we talking about? 3, 4, is this 5 straight years Florida's had a representation in the Stanley Cup?
That is correct. Yeah, the last 5 years coming out of the state of Florida. And I don't know if you saw the tweet, but the Tampa Bay Lightning PR team that manages their Twitter/X, they sent out congratulations, which was quite hilarious given that they are, state rivals, and that you would think like, oh, well, that's cute. They could have done something silly, like, oh, that's cute. You have a cup. Call us when you have 3 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Props to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but clearly the state of Florida, there's a lot of rumblings there in terms of the talent, in terms of the no state tax, which we've got into before in previous episodes. So go check it out on our YouTube page. In terms of players wanting to be somewhere sunny, albeit the ice was a little choppy, but I will address one thing about that because I heard that quite a few through some of the forums. It didn't affect the Florida Panthers from playing a good game. So it's not one-sided. Both teams are on the ice, so it shouldn't be a factor either way. I get that it's the end of June. Either way, that team, congratulations. A lot of greats, a lot of congratulatory to that team. The one big story that I really, really am happy for is Kyle Okposo. I remember when he was drafted by the Islanders, I remember he had a lot of injuries. I think it was a shoulder or ankle, like struggled. I wanted him here when he was coming up. Went over to Buffalo, became their captain, was a leader on and off the ice. And to see him after 14-plus seasons in the NHL, Evan, and to get his cup, beautiful. Sergei Bobrovsky, I'm telling you right now, Evan, if it wasn't true before, he's going in the Hall of Fame once he retires, guaranteed. 2 Vezinas, 1 Stanley Cup, an elite goaltender. I'm sure Jamie Dasco, who's going to be, 2-time, who's going to be on the show in the future in the new season, will probably gush over how well they did it and the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers gave up on him. It's sad to see. But the one I wanted to ask you about, because it's a big question. He scored the game-winning goal. Sam Reinhart, another former Buffalo Sabre and former teammate of Kyle Okposo. He was one of the best goal scorers this season next to Zach Hyman in the regular season. He scores a big goal. He wins the Stanley Cup. He's got no contract. What do you do if you're Florida and Bill Zito? Do you sign him or do you let that man walk? Your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be hard, but I don't know how you don't sign him. Will he take less years, or does he want the full term because he's 2 years older than most free agents would come in at? Now, I know people are going to say, well, look what happened with Huberdeau and et cetera, et cetera. Hey, Huberdeau had incredible seasons in Florida. That does tell you a lot about the systems that people play in. I think we need to remember that. I think that they do everything they can to re-sign him and keep the run. So here's the thing. They are going to get to a point. They don't have a large window span for the players that they have. When you have, like, Bobrovsky could maybe have another year or two. So if you get him in, why do you worry about 4 years down the road? Say they sign him, I don't know, let's take it at 10. They can sign him for $10 million. You're guaranteed regular season to get there higher in the standings. Can I just be honest? Whoever was going to be the home team in the Stanley Cup final had the best chance of winning. And that, to me, is the difference. If the Oilers had not started on the lower end, potentially still had their run, next, at the end of the season, they would have had home ice advantage, and I believe that was the difference. And I believe this was the home ice. Not just because of the fans, but because of that ice, because it changed a really skilled team. I don't know if you guys noticed, the skilled players, like the McDavids, like the Hymans, like the Drysdales, they had all their other issues they were dealing with around the ice. A lot of it had to do with they didn't have the ability because it was slush. They were slipping and pushing. They couldn't turn the same way. That was a benefit. But guess what? The way the game plays in Florida, that worked to their advantage for what they wanted, and it worked well. So they sign them. I think that they do everything they can. If they can't, now we have a great discussion of what the heck is going to happen. But Pavel, let me go back to you. Your son, Reinhart, are you allowing yourself to hit July 1st to get the best dollar? Or now that you won a cup and then just go get the most money to finish your career? Or do you want to see if you can go for another 1 or 2 cups with a run?
Oh, you want to go for another 2 cups. However, you also want to bring in the bank, but you know that you'll take a little bit less knowing that you have a team that's competitive and you have no state tax. So there's definitely going to be a reduction in salary there, as we've seen for other players. And you look at Sam Reinhart, and he's found a good fit, in that top 6 pairing. Like, he's enjoyed being there. He's had a good run with them, especially since he struggled in Buffalo. Now, I feel for Buffalo fans because they've seen quite a few of their players now go on and win the Stanley Cup, and if you could build around, not just that. No, I mean, you look at Jack Eichel last year,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like, it's, you want to better it, right? So
right,
go ahead.
You're second overall, right?
Well, you got balloons. You're celebrating.
Overall. Oh, sorry. Who's doing? What's going on? Did I do that?
Yeah, I don't know what you did, but you clearly are celebrating that Buffalo fans. They're going to come at your DM. So his Twitter /handle is
hands free here. I didn't do anything.
Celebratory. Maybe when you said celebration, I don't know.
Celebration. It's going to be a celebration. No, that didn't work.
Either way, I think as Sam Reinhart, you take your best chance. Really, I mean, where else he's going to go to be competitive right now and that can afford him? The salary cap's going up a little bit, but who can afford him at what he wants? And again, he'll take a little bit less. I'm thinking, I'm looking at the Elias Pettersson, William Nylander deal. He's a winger, can play. Now, I know Pettersson plays center, but he also can play wing, between 11.5 and 12.5, Evan.
Let's do a hypothetical.
All right.
Let's do a hypothetical on Reinhardt and we can move on. If you guys have an opinion, what you think he's actually worth. Remember, this is his best season, and I believe he's years old right now, right?
Yeah.
Approximately. So now, and by the way, if you guys all recognize, Sam Reinhart was the same year as Aaron Ekblad, which is interesting because both of them were on the same team in winning the Stanley Cup. But you won the Stanley Cup.
And Draisaitl.
And Draisaitl. Yeah, exactly.
Those
now, I ranked, we'll talk about that later, but my Revs Top 15, I ranked Sam Reinhart potentially coming out as the best player. Now, in all fairness, I know it's going to be Leon Draisaitl if we redid that now, but no one would have known that. And we'll come to him. Maybe we'll hit the Oilers after the Panthers here, and then we'll cover all the other stuff because that was the Stanley Cup. However, what if? Let's just throw some speculation out there because there's nothing out there other than us all speculating. Please don't go. I've had you guys do this before. You go, well, Rev and Ev is out there saying over at Two Guys in Hockey Talk, it's official, guaranteed source. No, I am not. I am just purely speculating. But let's have fun with this. Armchair GMs. If you could sign them, we know Chicago is moving quick. Who knows they're going to take. So the rumors are that they're going to take either Demidov or the Vrunchov.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Why? I can't say my names. Lev Shunov. Okay, yeah, there I go. I feel like I'm drunk tonight. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I should be drinking. Maybe that should be the thing. So you pulled up somebody. Now, I am so distracted today. Mouse.
Lost Trucker is just saying 9 moans, so I don't know what that means. So maybe she can clarify.
9 mil. She's probably driving and talking through audio.
All right. There you go. Okay.
So if that's in Florida, but what if we know Utah is a potential? There could be something there. They want to make a big push. They could keep their draft and maybe sign a player, right? We have a great draft at the table, then sign a player like Reinhardt. They could start making a push right away with a few little tweaks. I could see Smith going for it. However, what about now when they get their second player to go with Bedard? Or what if we're talking about you got Will Smith now ready to start? You got Macklin Celebrini we know the Blackhawks and the Sharks can make a push. Would they want to be relevant? I doubt it. They probably want one more year, each one of those teams to push, but it's always possible.
I agree. And with the Sharks, just to add to it, maybe you can allude to it because we didn't get to it last time. Barclay Goodrow gets picked up, technically gets picked off waivers. Wasn't happy about it. I know Chris Drury, he's trying to do the best what's for his team. And I know Mike Greer is trying to shore up that top 9 just to be a more competitive because I think it was Mikael Grenlund who was their top scorers. Hey, Kyle, great to hear from you.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing, man? Go Bruins! Go Bruins!
I don't know if Kyle was happy about the Celtics winning the championship, but the Bruins did not. So, really, we'll see what happens. Essentially, with now I lost my. You made me forget my last train of thought.
I think we're all over. We've had so much hockey this season. I think I've never watched more.
All right, San Jose, right? So they want to boost up. So Celebrini, if he's coming in next year, NHL ready to compete, they want to be able to have some guys to surround him with, like they did with Connor Bedard. Yeah. The one question I have for you now, Evan, and we'll get to the Oilers in just a second, is Linus Ullmark now gets traded over to the Ottawa Senators for Korpisalo with 25% retention by the Ottawa Senators, and one of the young defensemen, Mark. Kastelik, right? A first round pick and a first round pick in the 24 draft pick. What are your thoughts on the trade and what does this mean for either team? Is there a winner, a loser, as people like to say, or is it just they have an asset and Boston can't re-sign Linus Ullmark and Swayman's their guy?
I actually think this is a great deal. Steos pulled off a great one here for what they give up. The draft pick that they have that went, I did barely any follow up on that when this just came down. When I was looking into it, I was just like, I couldn't even remember that first round pick. And then I went back and I was like, yeah, I think the player's good, but I think he got picked about 15 to 20 spots too high. It was my opinion in my draft when I was looking at it. So I think they came out. They finally have their number one. So can we walk around Omar now? This is what I think is going to happen.
There's going to be a goalie hug.
Yeah, if they struggle, people are going to go, oh, what a sieve, and you guys are going to go, he sucks, and it's terrible. We don't get a number one goalie. If the goaltending situation is showing itself, and he starts getting a bad save percentage stuff, that tells you it's a team problem, not a goalie problem. Allmark is a top 15 goalie in the NHL. They have just been blessed with the chance now to make the playoffs. So long as they make a couple good moves, they only are about 2 moves away from guaranteeing themselves, in my opinion, a playoff spot.
Yeah, a wild card team, I think, because you're still competing with Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and Boston.
I'm not sure you knew this, but wild card is a playoff spot.
It is.
Okay. I know. Being
I'm just saying it's a tough division, and now you have the Stanley Cup champions in there.
But
I agree.
I never expected them last year, but now this is the difference, though. People got to quit going on and ripping apart teams, goaltenders, just because they have a bad system or bad defensive system. And defensive system doesn't always mean that. Quit blaming an actual defenseman and say, oh, that defenseman was supposed to be back there. If you look, sometimes the defenseman makes a press. It's the job of the center or the winger to get back and play and support. Anyone in the playoffs, they got far because the forwards had to come back. Why did the Oilers have less pressure sometimes up front? It's because they didn't want to risk it. And when an offensive guy went up, a forward had to pull back. And when they didn't, it caused an odd man rush. And so that's what they have to. So I think this is a great deal for Steos. I am really surprised that they just moved on so quick. I know they've been working on something, but for how predictable this was, Pavel, this kind of tells me that there could have been a lot. You can't tell me they couldn't have got more for Allmark. I know people are going to say they got a first round. They might not get that first.
And there's no contract extension yet. However, July 1st has not happened, so there could be something in agreement already.
I think there is.
Yeah.
Look at his response. His response, he is pumped because the team wants him. And he's ready to make one last good run over these next years and show that he is a world-class goaltender. I love this deal for Ottawa.
100%. I'm with you in agreement. Now, the one thing I will add for Boston, because I know Boston fans are already up in arms about Don Sweeney and what's going on. If you recall, Evan, and it's easy to forget with this social media age when it's on to the next thing, whatever's the latest trending thing. When they traded for Linus Ullmark from Buffalo, people weren't happy in Boston. They were like, this guy's a bum because his numbers were not that good. They were like, oh, what do we do? And they wanted Don Sweet's head. And here we go. They have a good defensive system. Now, they're still looking for a top 4D for sure. They really want to shore up that back end, with Charlie Coyle or Hampus Lindholm and Charles McAvoy with their 2 leading guys. But they also have to make a decision on their center. Keep an eye on for Lindholm, Elias Lindholm out of Vancouver. And what are they going to do about Jake DeBrusk? Because his names have been in the rumor mill for a while, and it's possible he gets moved. One team to look out for, which we'll get into right away here, is the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the Edmonton Oilers, they're getting so close, and then they fell short. Game 7, 1 goal, but nobody's going to remember that. Connor McDavid playing injured, undisclosed abdomen injury, has to get surgery. Draisaitl, broken rib and broken finger. Looks like, he had a hard time, especially with that release, if people were watching. And what's funny about Edmonton, I will give them this, their depth came through. It wasn't their big guys. Their depth in the postseason really came through. You look at Warren Fogle, you look at Matthias Janmark, you look at Adam Henrique, and there's rumblings of who can stay, who will go. Corey Perry scoring that one big goal. That was a big one from McDavid. What does this team do moving forward? What do they address? Is it something like a buyout for Jack Campbell? Do they change anything on the back end? Does Vinny Desharnais stay? And what do we make of, like Sam Reinhart, 1 year away from free agency, Leon, 29, Mr. Pissy Draisaitl?
Neon Leon, eh? Isn't that wonderful? By the way, today, I didn't even get a chance to actually hear the interview yesterday. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was last night. The interview came out and they kind of talked about the abdomen possibility. I trust this source, and I've got the source that there's going to be abdomen surgery that in the off season, real high possibility, and that it's very possible that was a part of the early season, that they did some stuff, they worked on some things. That could mean, this is interesting because a lot of us go, how do you go from 60 plus goals? I know he had an incredible assist here, but the way you shoot and how it works in your abdomen,
Your
area,
core.
the core of your body.
Breathing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is insane to think what that guy has done. Hence, I think if he had been perfectly healthy and still lost, I don't think you'd see him feeling the same. I believe right now you are dealing with a true leader because he is taking the onus on himself. He knows how much he gets. He knows how people look at him. And he feels bad that it was up to him to come through when everything was on the line. And so that's hence the reason. I'm going to get you to share in just a moment about a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about Leon, and then I want you to talk about the Conn Smythe situation and kind of what happened around that. So, and so he'll update you here. Pavel will just update everyone that doesn't know what we're talking about with the Conn Smythe. But so now go back to Leon. I've said this last year. I said it early this season. Leon and Connor are best friends. They are not just best friends because they play in the same team. These guys are like road hockey buddies. These guys are like brothers. They want to do everything they can, but they're not going to sit back and go, well, you know, it's just like, I'll give up $4 million just so we can play together. And this is how it works. And I don't care who you are. You do not worry about all the repercussions on your team when you got those two guys.
Yeah.
Right now, I am telling you, Leon will back. They're going to back the Brinks truck up. He deserves it for money that he left on the table. So when I originally was looking at, okay.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah, 13 and a half. And so 13 and a quarter is what Matthews got. I know you guys love Matthews.
But it's a 4-year agreement.
That doesn't matter. Matthews
it does.
Now, to you, it does. That's perspective. That's your perspective on it. I think Matthews lined it up so he can go out with a last 8-year span to take him to that higher thing. So and he has injuries, so he needs to plan that out differently.
Yeah.
I don't think Matthews is going anywhere. You're going to see him a lifelong Leaf and retire as a Leaf. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. We'll see, but only time will tell. But Leon, I think you're going to get an 8-year, $14 million deal that he's going to come in at. And then when it's Connor's time, he's going to be at the same percentage of the salary cap, close to the top, just like Crosby got when he did it. And then later when Connor did it, and then when McKinnon just did his. Again, they're taking that top end as much as you can get. I think, but you have to load the truck, give him the money, and then Bouchard's going to be in for it also in the year of McDavid. So who knows you're going to load it up. You will lose a bunch of players. You'll have to lose draft picks. You'll have to pay people to go. You'll pay the future for now. But when you can have guys that can score and become history record breakers, you don't get rid of them. You figure it out. And can I just say, I'm sorry, Toronto, if you let go of Marner, you are going to be missing out. I know there's been all these issues. You think he doesn't want to change his style of play. It takes a while sometimes. That guy is phenomenal. And I even think there were some other struggles going on this year, I hear, off ice. I don't know if that is true or not. And I don't mean in a bad way, bad things happening. I just mean that affect the overall psychology.
Game. Yeah, you saw it with Sergei Bobrovsky.
Exactly. And so be careful of giving them up. But I think they should keep Marner. I don't think they should be trading and doing all. They will sorely miss. You will never get that kind of potential. And if you don't win in the regular season, well, you're not going to be in the playoffs. And if you do get the playoffs, you might be in a wild card, and you're always going to be playing away, and that's going to be hard. Well, the NHL Stanley Cup is the hardest championship to win in the entire sports. It's about nutrition. It's about strength. It's about stamina. I mean, it is about skill. It's about grit and roughness.
Luck.
I don't think there's a lot of luck in it other than injuries. I really don't. I think that this is the best all-around team that can get there. That's my opinion.
I think there's a little bit of luck involved, but
I think luck is NBA.
No, I think there's some luck in the NHL because the puck bouncing the right way, maybe it goes over and you get a
7-game series. 7-game series.
Well,
You're not going to have
luck.
4 or 5 games that they always get the puck luck. No, you make your puck luck.
No, I disagree. You
okay, guys, we want you to chime in.
Agree to disagree. What I will say is that.
Hang on. I wanted our group.
I will get to it.
To comment in here though. Yes. I want them to see do they think puck luck is difference in playoffs, or do they think that puck luck, you make your puck luck? Guys, go ahead.
You can let us
know. Do you agree with Rev or do you agree with the cat? Let us know.
Now, we'll get into the Conn Smythe in just a second here, the conversation. But what I would say is that I don't think Draisaitl's taking $14 million. I think they have numbers for Bouchard, Draisaitl, and McDavid already ready. And I think that Draisaitl's coming in for 8 years around 12.5, no more. And it's going to be very front-loaded, very heavy, bonus heavy, just because of what he can bring. Because you want to be able to bring good players around him. And I think Jeff Jackson, who's taken over right now, because Cal Holland is not returning to the Edmonton Oilers, and there's rumblings he may go elsewhere or retire. He is 69, he's getting there. He may choose to step away from the game. He's already in the, Hockey Hall of Fame. What I look at is that Draisaitl is going to take a little bit less because you have to build a team around them. And when you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs right now and what they're struggling with in terms of building around that core 4-5 if you include Riley, it's hard, Evan. And they're having a hard time getting out of the first round once in the second round.
So he's supposed to take lesser to play in Edmonton again?
So there's a difference between not taking lesser. It's about your cap hit versus front loading the contract.
Doesn't matter. Why should he sacrifice just because of cap hit?
Because you will get money elsewhere, and there is more at stake beyond your career once you are done playing hockey. And he's already made $15
million. $15 million over 7 years. Any other team would find a way to make it happen, regardless.
100%. I'm not saying, he could definitely get that. I'm not disputing with you. What I'm saying is,
no, I know you're going what you think will happen.
I think it will be 12.5, no more than 13 for 8 years.
Then why doesn't Connor do that? Why does Connor have to be greedy and take the maximum almost every time?
I didn't say that he would. I'm saying he will take probably around 14. Connor will take a little bit more, but the cap's also going up. What?
How much do you think Connor takes?
I'm saying about 14.5.
Oh, you think he's only And I'm going to tell you, he's going to come in at $17-18 million when it's his turn.
Can he come in at that much at that point?
Yeah, the percentage will, because your cap's going to be up in 2 years, approximately another $4 to $5 million on top of that.
Ideally, yeah, if that's what it looks like. So there's definitely, again, we'll see in 2 years.
I guess what I'm saying is the difference between those two isn't really that high, though, Pavel. So that's why
we'll have a little friendly banter to see who's right, because I have some sources inside that say that that's not what it is, but we'll see how it is. And I think
I'm just thinking in my head, why can Connor take so much more than Leon? Now you're saying he won't possibly.
I don't think he'll take much more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying they're going to come up pretty close together within only, as opposed to the separation this last time, because you had 4 million separation this last time. Now, and to get 4 million separation on the next level, you'd have to be like 13 and 17 or 18 to even come close, right?
Now,
and so I think between the two, you're going to be spending $30 million on those two players for their contracts.
Now, what I will say is that exactly. But what I will say is that the one factor that is very unknown in the situation is if Draisaitl, beyond wanting to be playing with McDavid and having a chance to win, which this season showed that they could do it. They went to the final. That's not insignificant, Evan. Remember that means a lot to have a team, a coach, a system that allows you to compete and get to the Stanley Cup final. And they didn't get swept. They went to Game 7. What I would say, Evan, for that situation is if he wants to be closer to home, to Cologne, Germany, and so he wants to go to an Eastern team so that the flight travel is less, so it's not as taxing on your body. So there's definitely going to be that.
How many hours? How many hours do you like? Just estimate. I don't know.
Oh,
This
around
travel to
eight
Europe.
to 9 hours if you're flying
More?
from Edmonton. But again, it's a direct charter. It would be about 8 hours.
Okay, 8 hours more than as if he was in the east.
Yes. No. I don't know if it's more. It's 8 hours from Edmonton to about Frankfurt, tentatively.
Oh, okay. So so what I was kind of thinking is, if I'm in the east, like unless it's at least 4 to 5 hours minimum less, I might not be worried about that to go 3-4 times a year, right?
Yeah.
But it's a point.
We'll see how it goes. I will say one thing because we'll get into the Conn Smythe right away here because we've given enough oxygen to this topic. There was viewership numbers released, and it looks like 14.7 million people tuned in to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final because really there wasn't much else on TV at the time as big an event as this was. And of course, Canadian team, there's Canadian fans all over. I was watching from Victoria. There was a lot of watch parties there in downtown Victoria, BC, around the coast. People were watching in the States. Florida was bringing in a lot of numbers. And it goes to show you that there is an appetite for big franchises, for big name players like a McDavid, like a Draisaitl. And it was really cool. Now, we saw him get awarded. Go ahead.
I was going to say I had 8 or 9 people in my house celebrating in a party to watch the game that normally do not watch. They would not watch a common regular season game.
My parents don't usually watch hockey, and they were interested.
Yeah, I bet you're looking at a multiplication of 12 to 14% more than would watch that are just regular fans.
Yeah. So, Conn Smythe. Connor McDavid wins the Conn Smythe. There's a lot of grumblings because he did not come out and accept the award. Gary Bettman presented. He got booed, as of course is expected. And there was a lot of talks behind the scenes. Well, he's a coward. He can't do it. But I got to be honest, Evan, he doesn't need to accept that. He just lost. The Florida Panthers are at home celebrating. There are rats everywhere. It's raining rats, right?
and they don't want him out there.
Why would he go out there?
They want to wait for the Stanley Cup. I mean, I don't think he knew about the booing. I mean, you generally know, but as bad as it was, though, when it was announced, because they had their own ideas.
Yeah.
I at first, I got to say, I felt disappointed that he didn't, like in my head, right? Because I want to see him. I want him to be acknowledged. I also don't want people to say, call him a crybaby or something like that. But then I stop and I bring the human element. The game is done. To say be an ambassador, pull your Snickers out. Like, that's ridiculous. And here's the thing. He didn't care about the Conn Smythe. This proves it. He shows his team, I'm more about you. I'm sorry I let you down, but right now I want to be with you. I don't want to be out collecting some private award that nobody cares here. Yeah. If he was at home, I could have saw him doing it for the fans.
Or the awards show tomorrow.
Well, exactly. But here's the thing, right? I don't know about you. Like Florida, I love you guys. I'm glad you're in. I love the fans I've met this off season. But that was some bad, classless move. You just won the Stanley Cup, the most precious prize in all of ice hockey, the most iconic trophy. And you had the indecency to boo right now the greatest player in the game when you just shut him out.
Yeah.
You just shut him out of the game. Show some class, say thank you to the rest of the world, and then enjoy your celebration and let the fans of Edmonton, in fact, enjoy with you.
Yeah.
Because I actually enjoyed a little bit of it post of watching and seeing the team. And I was excited to see non-traditional hockey market. A group like Miami who they've been there twice. They never got to win it. But I want the game to grow in Florida. I want the game to grow in that south area of Miami. That's
this is their third time there, so yeah.
But and booing the Canadian national anthem.
Yeah, that was
classless.
I wasn't a fan of that.
Like, oh man, I want to bring someone on who deals with that kind of. Like, I am so disappointed right now in American networks. American teams that like give no credit.
And to turn it around to say Canadians were booing theirs, that was not
that
true.
Was
they
stupid.
were saying Sergey. Yeah. And then they stopped as soon as the American national anthem started. So it's not.
I know that we're kind of going off, and we talked about that. Can I just say this part? This what just got me on a little rant, I guess. Here we won't go and pull our rant stuff up or whatever. This is near the end of the season. But what bothered me in the playoffs. So I'll just use because I saw a lot watching and following the Oilers. So they have coming up, welcome everyone to Turtle Island and so forth, and giving honor to our Indigenous peoples. And I love that. But why would you start that? They are chanting at the top of their lungs. You know what? Forget about TV. Forget about those stuff. When they simmer down, then turn it on. And if they had done that with the Canadian anthem, if he had waited to let them finish, they will tire out. They're not going to go for 10 minutes. Let them tire out because he hit it at the top of the rant of the shouting Sergey. And so it takes the whole arena. You got 18,000 people. Yeah. Come on, man. So it took a moment, and then they do those video shorts. So sick and tired of trolls right now. I mean, like right now, I am looking forward to an off season without trolls. That was crazy.
Just gotta ignore him. Just gotta ignore him. Now, what I did want to say is that he didn't accept the award. That's fine. People have to remember that this award is for the best player in the playoffs, not the best player in the last series or the last game. And the fact that he had 42 goals in the playoffs as a player, sure, you shut him down. That just goes to show you how well Florida played and defended. But the fact, and that he was injured too, right? Not to take away from what Florida was able to do.
Yeah, no one knew that.
But that Bobrovsky lost it after how he played. And Bobrovsky, I would have voted for him probably second. I was surprised that when the voting came out that Barkov was in second, because I really thought that Bobrovsky was there. And he had a really good game 7. He played unreal, even in the first 3. But McDavid, when you put up 42 numbers with only other players in the NHL in the history of the game have done it, Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, it just goes to show you how talented he was. So
what's interesting, so Pavel, what's your take on this? The fact that the talk was Bobrovsky in this playoff, right? He started world class, stopped them. He was the reason they won the first 2 games automatically. Not 3, but the first 2.
Yes.
Then, right, the only reason in my mind that the Oilers even made it to game 7 was while they did shut down Connor McDavid lit him up for 2 games, getting his 8 points.
8 points.
Right? He kept them in that hall to even go, because otherwise it was just depth guys. All the supports like Hyman and Nuge and even Kane, he was fighting injured again this year, trying to play. But here's the thing. If McDavid, it's about the playoffs, okay, going into this series. Now, everyone said, Bobrovsky's going to win this hands down. Then later, after he's been beat by McDavid, they say, well, if you look at the other series, it wasn't because of him. Well, then 2-3 games in the final shouldn't have made it. He shouldn't have been in the front. It should have been Barkov. And if you say, well, because McDavid won it because of how he performed the entire playoffs and those 2 games, then Bobrovsky should have been at least in second place in the votes. Yeah. So I kind of find the reasoning kind of off. Yeah. But I understand. He broke history records. And so I think it was the right choice. It was honoring. But right now, it was wounding. And, it's time to move on.
It just goes to show how hard it is to win. And it doesn't matter. Even this isn't like basketball where even if your best players are your best players, you still need that depth push from your whole team. A good defensive game, elite goaltending. Now, I will say, Evan, Stuart Skinner had a really solid series, and I think the team has a good future with him, although they do need somebody else, whether it's Pickard or, you give Campbell one more chance. Who knows? Would they buy him out? It'll be interesting. Now, we'll get away from that because we've talked enough about it. The buyout window has opened, and Jeff Skinner is on the buyout list. Now, former Buffalo Sabre had 3 years left of that big contract. They don't really have to put him through waivers, which is just a little additive to this. But your thoughts on Jeff Skinner and how some teams should take a chance on him because he can put up those points and he's a good winger that could potentially be impactful on a team. And I speak specifically when you look at Evgeny Kuznetsov, and I know he didn't get bought out. Yeah. But they traded with Carolina, and he's had a resurgence with the Hurricanes. Yeah. Go ahead on Jeff Skinner.
I just need some recollection because on Jeff Skinner, I followed it, and now I've forgotten just momentarily. How many years left?
3.
Okay. I agree with you. I think his experience, what he brings to the game, he has great leadership on that team. They love him. They're going to miss it. He's bought out. He goes somewhere else. Could you imagine?
Stanley Cup next year, and then the Buffalo Sabres are upset again.
yeah, exactly. Well, and you know what? He had a decent year in spite of. I thought he was just out of the game a couple of years ago here. Yeah. He wasn't. But stop and think about this. We just talked about 2 teams now They're going through changes. They need some veteran people in their lineups. That's why Barclay Goodrow, who is a good playoff performer, they want him for toughness. They want him for grit. They want him to be able to get the odd goal, good depth. But what would Skinner look like over with the Sharks or the Blackhawks?
Yeah,
right. Either one of
them. No pressure.
You got franchise players right now. Maybe one's a generational one. We don't know yet. But I mean, he'd be fine. That'd be a great chance for him.
Well, he wants a chance. He's one of the few players left in the game that's played over 1,000 NHL games without playing a playoff game yet. Because when he was traded for Carolina, they weren't competitive. Then he went to Buffalo. So last year, in 74 games, he had 24 goals and 22 assists for 46 points. The year before, 35 goals in 79 games and 47 assists. So almost a point, or a little over a point a game, plus 15. And in 2021, so the last just 3 years, in 80 games, 33 goals, 30 assists, 63 points. Although he was minus 14 and 42 penalty minutes, the guy can score and chip in your top six.
I want him with Bedard. I'll be honest with you. I really like to see him with Bedard.
You offer him a $3 to $5 million contract, and he takes it on. So it'll be interesting to see. There'll definitely potentially be more buyouts, but we wish Jeff Skinner all the best, and we hope to see him in the postseason because, like Jack Eichel, like Kala Pozo, these are players that deserve to see the postseason and show what they can do. Now, I want to
Can I just tell you something really random in the middle of all this?
Sure.
Do you guys remember 2006 in memory of the Oilers being there the last time, and they lost? And you remember the goalie who they lost to? Cam Ward.
Oh, Cam Ward, yes.
Yes. I just got my hands. I had a family member help me. Got my hands. Someone obviously didn't know the value of a signed autograph Red Deer Rebels WHL jersey that was autographed. Now, it's not my name. It's probably some kid, and some parent didn't know nothing. And I just picked it up for dirt cheap. And I got this Red Deer Rebels jersey of the authentic one and it's signed by Cam Ward. It just got me thinking about it. It just, some of these players, and I would love to see Jeff Skinner have a good season or two and even get a chance at a playoff run here before, he gets to that place. I mean, isn't he the one that started figure skating when he was young? That was one of the ways that he actually gained his ability.
Learn how to be a skilled skater. Yeah, so there's definitely that's a pretty cool story because sometimes you come across these gems and you can really just enjoy and embrace something that's a novelty that maybe people may not realize.
Time to move on.
All right, time to move on. Is that your thing? So a few things to keep an eye on. It sounds like Vancouver is really pushing for Jake Guentzel. Now, I know you and I were really talking about this. A few other
I think he is. I think they are really pushing. I agree.
And you said that they wouldn't have cap room, but that's what we talked about. So I just proved
I didn't say I said they'll have a hard time with cap room, but that's not what I said. I said my so if you guys haven't been following, you have said that they're the front runner to me for that. That's what you made it sound like. It's almost a given that
I did not say it's a front runner. I said is that's a team to keep an eye out for the Jake Guentzel sweepstakes.
Yeah,
go back and watch the tape.
I think that they are probably the strongest push for Guentzel right now.
Right.
But my understanding, and this dates back a while, the reason that I've said, and I've said it on here, that I see him preferring the American market, because that was something that was a discussion when he was still with the Penguins, when he talked about where he plays, and they were looking at moving him potentially. And so during that time, his family were open in discussions around, and that came from some of our connections to the Penguins. So that was one of the reasons I stuck to that, and I'm still going to stick. If you talked about it once, doesn't mean if you can get more money, but right now, the sky's the limit. But see, man, Utah's in a good place, right? Because they're another team that could go there. Guentzel has won a cup. He could actually sign over in Chicago. I know we keep going back to Chicago and the Sharks, but man, I mean, these guys talk about rebuilds.
Yeah.
What a chance to be able to bring someone in with your teams. Like I got to be honest with you. I think Chicago, they shouldn't try to have another bad year. They need to make a move, and I think it's time to start doing a push. And a guy like Guentzel would be a wiser choice to go with what they need to do.
Now, there is potential trades with, and I know it's been kind of in the mix right now, but it sounds like Vancouver wanted to trade Ilya Mikheyev. That was announced this afternoon. However, it seems like Chicago, which was where they were trying to trade him to, was on his no trade list, as well as a third team to retain a bit of salary. It's an ongoing development. We're going to try to keep that story in the thing.
Why would they want Mikheyev? That's kind of weird for me. Why would Davidson want Mikheyev?
A draft pick, something to be thrown in.
No, but why do you think that they'd want to bring him into Chicago, like
Speed.
with that team?
Speed. He can skate. He's got speed.
Okay, that's fair.
He struggles with the finish, but he's got speed. I liked him in Toronto, but he just had a hard time finishing. Now, a few things I wanted to kind of.
I think that's too much defensive liability myself, but
because I want to get into juniors a little bit with you and some younger players, but. It sounds like Sergei Berezin, who played 5 of his 7 NHL seasons with Toronto, has passed away at the age of 52. We don't know what happened, but he is from Russia, Volskrenek. He was a 10th round pick, 256th overall pick in 1994. He scored 20 goals a few times. Great guy. He went to Phoenix at the time when it was Phoenix. We wish his family all the best. It's hard. It's never easy to lose somebody in your family, let alone a solid NHL player like that. So we wish him all the best. Any thoughts on the former Maple Leaf, Evan, on Sergei Berezin?
Yeah, no, isn't that's so hard when you hear like I'm 54 and I'm thinking he's 2 years younger than me, and my heart just I don't even know him personally, and my heart goes out to the family and friends. When you lose someone like that, it's like, what's hockey even mean? But he meant a lot actually in the hockey community, especially over in Russia. And so he was very connected. I like the fact, you're dealing with a guy who is a forward. He was a solid guy. I believe he was around 200 pounds, but you're talking, I think he was 5'10". Like he was shorter than Crosby and stuff, and he still found a way to make it in the game and still to play the game. He had heart. He was tough. It's a tough day, I think, when you lose these guys at a younger age for whatever the reasons are. And like you said, maybe it's out there now. We just don't have the information. If you guys know, that's fine. You don't even have to write it. We're not. However it happened is another story.
Wish his family all the best in this time.
Yeah, it was weird because when I saw he was drafted by the Maple Leafs, I just saw that quickly and I was like, Berezin? No, Berezin was in Calgary, and then I rang her. That was Perry Berezin. That was a totally different person back in the day. So
now there's no easier way to transition because it's always a difficult topic. But I did want to announce that former GM, coach, and great all-around guy Glenn Sather has retired from the game of hockey. He has announced it. He's spanned over 4 decades of being involved in the game of hockey. He coached with Edmonton Oilers, took him to those 5 cups. He went over to the Rangers. He did a lot of good work. Any kind of memory or history or fun fact you want to share with the world about Glenn Sather?
So, I personally am not a pro fan of Glenn Sather. I feel like he's a bit of a traitor on Edmonton. He acts like New York was the best times of his life. And he got 1 cup with them. I get it. He was there many years in the management, but he made his career and his living because of what happened in Edmonton. I want to go back to the Edmonton because those are the times. It is hilarious how that guy would push. So if you didn't know the story, this was years ago. So he took Grant Fuhr, his all-star goaltender, superstar goaltender, and he wanted to discipline him for making some mistakes in a playoff game. And so he made him run in the old Northlands Coliseum up and down the stairs from the bottom bowl to the top bowl and all the way down in his goaltending equipment without his skates, of course, on. So he had to wear his gloves, his chest protector. He had to wear his helmet. He had to keep all that stuff on and run up and down. And he I think it was 3 or 4 full up and downs. Now, you talk about bag skate. Those are the kinds of things that they did back then. Of course, you'd be fired now. No one would allow something like that. How dare you treat him like that? But he was about winning. He actually lightened up by the time he got to New York. And I will say this. It is interesting because I believe as much as you hear all the Oilers stories and they had fun and, this is what's different about then. The Oilers were so good at what they did. They had their hockey IQ were so good in the 80s that those guys literally, even they come out, they break down if they lost or whatever it was, including in what was it, in 1982 when they lost to the Islanders. You know, they totally taken right out in I think it was 5 games, right? It wasn't a sweep. It's the 5 games. And anyway, they're over it. They're ready now. They're focused on the next thing. But they have fun. They had fun in between. And this is, can I just say, I feel in Stanley Cup playoffs, teams, I get it when you're switching over. You got to find a way. Your whole focus cannot be hockey. And I'm worried. I teach as a trainer. I have to emotionally give myself to help people train all throughout a day. And now what I've learned is since I've gone full time doing it, I get into the next day. And I had to tell just one of my classes recently, I know you're exhausted, but it's my fault. And it's because I've given so much of myself and engagement that literally they're tired. I made them feel so, that tension, that lightning, the laughing, and that's what worries me today in today's game. The Oilers back then were different. And Sather would drive them, but he would also help them laugh. So he said, go have fun, go have your smoke, go grab your drink, and then get back here and we're going to work our butts off now. And so I love that. I really love that.
I'm sure there's tons of great stories. Yeah. So that's incredible. You guys can let us know your stories of any Glenn Sather memory that you have, direct or indirect. A few more things to note before we finish up, because we're getting to the end and there's still quite a bit to cover. The Colorado Avalanche re-signed Casey Middlestat for a 3-year deal of $5.75 million. That is the guy they traded for at the deadline, and they picked him up to be their second line center after getting rid of Johansson. Your thoughts? Quick thoughts?
Wow. There's a guy who just took because he thinks they have a shot, eh? There's a guy who he could have got more. I'm actually amazed at that. So good on Colorado. If you're an Avalanche fan, I bet you I could see Kim Becker, who was on our show just a couple weeks ago. He is probably pumped right now, just saying, yeah, we got this centerman locked up, and that's what they needed. And I will say, Pawel, in the playoffs, he pleasantly surprised me. I didn't think he could be able to because he hasn't been there, right? Yeah. But I will say early in the season, if you check our shows, he was one of the ones I said expect him to be traded early on because he was having a great year, and they just did not have interest in moving forward. I don't know if there was something behind the scenes, but obviously it ain't so bad because Colorado, who does not want to mess around with a lot of struggles being in the back behind in the dressing rooms, he obviously must be good in the dressing room. Otherwise, they wouldn't have signed him.
Yeah. And I do want to mention also that Detroit had traded with San Jose, because we talked a little bit about them, for future consideration to send over to San Jose Jake Wallman, the defenseman, and a second-round pick in this draft. That was originally Tampa Bay's. So your quick thoughts on that defenseman going over. I think he had a cap hit of 3.5 million. Another team in on Gensel. I think they're making room. It's an interesting move because I like Wallman. I think it was a great pickup for them, but for some reason they got rid of him. Yeah. So it's the ideal plan is, I guess my question is the second letter in his last name. Why? Your quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can tell you're a dad now. You got the dad jokes rolling every time we got a podcast now. Yeah, I'm going to be strictly honest and be very vulnerable here. I don't know a lot on the defenseman, so but I do find it interesting, that move. Obviously, it's about draft pick and just making some changes. You do something and then you go, I think we're going to make an adjustment, right? Now. So it's San Jose is going to be in a lot more things. Expect that in this next.
Well, they want to be a bit more competitive. They have their coach now.
They need to get the fans back.
They need to sell season tickets. It is a business.
And you don't bring Will Smith the same year that you have Macklin celebrating.
Yeah.
Macklin's making it.
Well, and William Eklund too. Like, he's really taken a step forward, and he's been really solid for them. So you really want them to do well. So there's definitely going to be some interest, and it'll be fun to see. One thing of note, no need to comment, but I'll get into two pieces of business. Fanatics has released a lot of the concepts for their jerseys. You guys can go check it out online. It looks pretty cool for some of them. Oilers are staying the same. The Anaheim one is interesting. The LA is going back to the original logo. It looks really good. Do you have any thoughts on the jerseys, on the Fanatics and stuff? I know we've talked about
I just saw a quick thing. So I've been so busy the last 5 days doing training on weekends and issues with my with my boat and my truck, and I barely got to see it, so I can't comment on what it looks like. I will next week when we wrap up. However, did you hear how much LA put into design?
No, I did not.
Over 3 some odd million.
Wow.
And everyone's like, to go back to the Gretzky days, essentially, with the slight variation. So I have no idea how they got that number, who brought that number. Did they bring someone from outside? All I can say is Rob Blake's not going to be a general manager very long. You can keep spending $3 million to redesign an old design. Awesome. I like it though, by the way. I like the design though. I like that old retro.
And 3 more things we're going to finish up with because we're getting to the end of the time. So just a quick note, and I know this is beating a dead horse, is it sounds like Alex Meruelo is stepping away from the ownership of the Arizona Coyotes name brand and everything associated with that, because the land auction that was going to go through, it wasn't properly filed. I guess there was some Craig Morgan was doing a lot of the reporting. Great work, Craig, out there. Just in terms of not having the right permits in place, because they were willing to build an arena there. But my understanding is the plan was for a youth arena, not for an NHL arena. So he's stepping away. He has his $1 billion. It looks like he's no longer involved. It seems like he really burnt a lot of bridges and didn't build relationships in the hockey world, which is a very small community in terms of garnering support and building that name brand up and trying to connect with the community. And it shows that the NHL will return there right now. But I think Arizona fans, as I heard when I was down there for the last game between the Oilers and them, they were not happy with how leadership, specifically Alex Meruelo, took this on. Fun fact, his son ran the Twitter /X account for them. So he definitely knew that there was a lot of backlash. Your quick thoughts on this whole situation and the poor business management of Alex Meruelo with the Arizona Coyotes.
I will say this. If I was a fan of Arizona, I would be jumping for joy right now. With him officially out, I think now you guys have a good chance. There will be 34 teams minimum. And there will be over the next 5 to 7 years. I think you'll get those 2 teams. Whether they're first, because they still have to deal with the arena situation. They will have an arena. They'll come up. Because I think the NHL is going to go look for someone. Is what they're going to do. But if I'm a fan, and I've been a former hockey player, I'm doing this.
Woo.
And I'm banging my head saying, how could this guy have ever been an owner? And right now the NHL just showed a lot of guts by stepping in, coming up, doing something last minute, and getting
to avoid legalities. To be sued.
And I want everyone to realize they said, well, they kind of gifted Smith. Smith paid for a bad franchise
and more.
A bad 1.2 bit. Let's call him the second worst franchise. Basically, Ottawa was one of those. But Ottawa at least got the AHL team in another arena. They got essentially $1 billion. You have 1.2 billion, and all he gets is the rights to all the players and the staff is all he gets. He doesn't have the name, doesn't have anything, so it's like a brand new. He didn't even get the AHL team. He has no arena, and the fact he paid 1.2 billion, and they convinced him to do this. So now, as I'm looking at this, I get it. I'm okay with Utah HC for the first year or two. I think, though, this is what I think, though, by the way, I think they need to run with Utah HC for 2 years. A lot. Don't just do a one and literally give yourself lots of time to build, get yourself ready. But now I think Arizona can get ready because I think they're guaranteed they're going to get one of those expansions. So the bigger question to me, who in the East will be the last franchise allowed in expansion? Because there won't go more than 34, in my opinion.
That's fair. And just for everyone's note, the Tuscan Roadrunners will continue to be the AHL affiliate for
Tucson.
Utah NHL. Tucson. You're connecting my pronunciation. Final 2 things to talk about, and I know you run on to get to it, and we got a little bit behind, but we're going to get into it all. We know that Rudder McGrody has told Winnipeg, the prospect, that he does not want to be signing with them just because he hasn't had an opportunity. He was a 2022 first-round draft pick. It was selected 14th overall, and it looks like potentially Winnipeg could trade him away because they just didn't have a place for him. Now, we all know that they were competing for a playoff spot. It was tough. He's looking at some of his peers who are playing in markets that aren't as competitive. your thoughts on the Rudder McGrody story, and as well as you can comment quickly on Matei Michkov ending his contract with the KHL and potentially coming over next season for the Philadelphia Flyers. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, maybe we'll talk about this, and we'll do some writings in the summer, and we'll get a chance to really change things up for you guys. So Rudy McGrody, one of the things that I'm worried about, and I like to talk more about this, is that whole thing of being able to become eligible. I know a lot of you are like, well, they should be able to ride it out, and if they are willing to sign later, pick and choose where they go. Yeah. I'm okay with that if it was every player. But if I go a different route, if I go through the CHL, I can't do that unless I hold up. That'd be the only way. But when you hold out, you can wreck your value to other teams that don't want a player that's willing to hold out. Like, frankly, I would never want a player. Like, I remember that happened with Justin Schultz. Oiler fans were all excited about it. And I go, you know what? That could be you, though, someday when a player doesn't want to play for you. Long and behold, there are players. Look at Calgary. Adam Fox, right? He never wanted to play there. He got traded. It wasn't just Canada. He wanted New York, and he was not going anywhere. He has more power, Fox, to go to New York because of how good he was. But McGrody, he's got power. He's good. He's good at what he does. So I think we should talk more about this. And I want to bring on an agent that's very familiar with this. So I'm going to be doing some work in the offseason. I do have a couple people to have that conversation a little bit more around that. So let's talk and finish this off. So if you're listening to our last podcast, Jamie Baskow, we did not get you on this season. We had you the previous in seasons 3 and 4. Our season 5, we had 3 other people out of Philly. We didn't get a chance. We corresponded. You've given us information.
We love our Philly teams.
Helped us out. But Jamie, we're going to be calling you. We want you to start the season. We have no clue what's going on, but man, we're excited to try and hear what's going on. Right now, they have done so much change just going in the year. Briere is incredible with what's going on. Can you imagine this? Mishkov, no one expected him. If people thought he could be here this coming season, I guarantee he does not get out of the top 2. After the top 2, he is going anywhere.
Calder nominee.
Like, that was a steal.
Yeah.
And could you imagine? So Jamie Baskow, he'll talk to us probably about this. We'll see what happens in the draft. He interviewed and had an interview with Cole Eiserman, who would love to go to Philly. Another guy. They want guys that want to go there. He likes gritty hockey. He's a tough player. But because his defensive game has been struggling, and we'll talk about that more on Friday for a special edition. By the way, guys, Friday special draft, NHL entry draft edition. 5 o'clock. We're coming on with my Revs Top 15. We're going to stay on. We're going to have conversations. We're going to allow call-ins. We're going to show you the draft live if you want to follow with us here. If not, you can check it out after. But we're going to stay on till all 15 of the players. I really hope they go early, so I'm not sitting there for 3 hours boring you. But I'm working with some scouts right now that have shared information. And behind the scenes, we'll talk about some of the other players that are being drafted. But Cole Eiserman could be one of those guys. If he drops far back, I think he's a way better player, but that doesn't mean he won't, mock. Where's he going? What if he ends up over there? Give him 1 more year to work in development, and then you see he moves in with it. Philly could be stacked and loaded in about 3 years.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see. We look forward to it. You guys can let us know. Finally,
what's your thoughts? What would you have done? Why don't we do this? I know you got to wrap.
No. Well, I wanted one more topic beyond. So sorry. Okay. I want to bring one.
Okay, that's okay. This is our second last official show. So, give me your thoughts on the Mishkov thing. Do you think it's good? Do you think that this is going to rush?
I think it's great.
Is it going to affect the plan that Briere? Do you think Briere is going to adjust on the fly?
I mean, he does have to adjust, but it's good he knows now. So he knows how to go into the draft. He knows how to go into the offseason. I know that there's a few signings you have to do. You have to know how you're going to implement him into your system and to see if you're going to play in the AHL a little bit at the beginning of the season, or if you're going to, burn the first year of his contract by making him play the first 9 games or more, right? Like, and of course, injuries happen. So he'll definitely have an opportunity to look. But do you want to shelter him? Do you want to put him on the wing? I think really they're going to take this and use it as an opportunity, right?
You know what I would do?
What?
If Couture doesn't get traded, hint, If he doesn't, he's still in the pack. I put Mishkov with Couturier and let him mentor him.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Oh, I think that's your last thought of the day.
No, I got two more, and I know. So I wanted to just mention
earlier. Can I tell you? I had someone say to I had two different people say to me over time. They go, your colleague there has a lot of one last thing to say, one more last thing to say, and I go, that's okay. He's got a lot of things to say.
Okay, well, these are quick things. Congratulations
to
the Hershey Bears for winning again back-to-back championships. With a former Edmonton Oilers head coach, Todd Nelson, right?
Wow.
So potentially look for him as getting a new job. And of course, as you know, on the other side with Coachella Valley, he now has Dan Bosma a job with the San Jose Sharks. What I wanted to quickly bring up, because I know Matthew Strong scored the game-winning goal. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's interesting that you just brought. I didn't know they won. I've been out of the AHL loop.
I'm trying to bring your game to you.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's wonderful. So Todd Nelson, this is kind of, I just got some news from someone saying they wouldn't tell me where or anything, and so I have to speculate, but they said, get ready, because next season Todd Nelson's going to be back in the NHL.
So I was looking. So rumblings are Columbus. However, Waddell wanted somebody with some NHL experience, and I know they were looking at Todd McClellan. So keep an eye out for those two names. But you look at a different team that needs I don't know if he wants to be assistant head coach, but maybe to promise him 1 year assistant, and then you're going to transition into.
He's got to go somewhere he's being mentored in, though. Yeah. Otherwise, he's not.
And I think that's what you're looking at.
He's done everything else. The guy doesn't have anything left to prove.
So good for Hershey Bears for repeating. A lot of those guys are going to go on and have good careers. Props to them. I just wanted to quickly allude to the fact that the Hockey Hall of Fame has been announced for 2024. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts, because there's some interesting names on there. And of course, there's a lot of players that, are always missing. But you have a Shea Weber. You have a Pavel Datsyuk, one of my favorite players. You have Jeremy Roenick, who came on there and really made an impact. You have David Pawel, who, of course, is a builder, right? So you have some really big names coming in. You have national former women's U.S. players, Natalie Darwitz and Chrissy Wendell-Pohl, and, of course, Colin Campbell, who's the president of hockey operations in the NHL. So all I wanted to bring it up is that's great. I still wish McGillney and Curtis Joseph were let in, and you guys can let us know if there's anyone else. Any final thoughts? Go ahead, Evan.
I'll go with my final thoughts off of what you just said. I have no problem with any of those guys except one. Everyone talks about it. They talk about you got to win a cup, be in the Hall of Fame. Jeremy Roenick. I like him. I think.
Well, Shea Weber never won a cup.
But here's the thing. Why would he be ahead still of McGillney? I get Datsyuk, I get Weber, but even then, I don't know if I consider overall in their careers Datsyuk a better player overall. There you go. Canucks are trading Mikhailov left after and a pick to the Blackhawks. So that's interesting. It just came through right now. I just got the news. So yeah, it's just like I'm kind of bewildered, I guess, with that. Why? Like, what is it and why? I want to hear from someone. I think they need to be accountable to tell us, why would you not still put these guys from so long ago? If I put Datsyuk here and McGillney here and I took them throughout their career and I get one player to pick.
I don't know what the problem is here.
Yeah, I feel like, and especially because it's
this is not why he's called the defector, people.
Well, I mean, he's the first guy to make that step, and it changed hockey for Russians. I mean, on top of the fact, like, how many goals does this guy score as a, like, oh, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. So,
you guys can let us know your thoughts, because it's an interesting take. It always brings up a lot of discussion. But look forward to our draft on Friday. We're going to be here live again. We're going to bring you the latest and greatest, plus news around the league. There's going to be trades. July 1st is just around the corner. Big signings are happening. What will happen with Mitch Marner? What are Utah as a new team going to do? Where's Jake Kensel going to go? How wrong is Evan going to be about Leon Draisaitl's contract? You can learn that all here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are on Facebook, YouTube. We have a page, Two Guys in Hockey Talks by JR Web Design. We love hearing from you guys. Make sure you follow us on Twitter /X at RevandEv or myself at hockey_2. We appreciate you guys. We're at the end of the season. We got 2 more episodes left, and then we are done for the summer and then back in the fall. Evan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say, make sure, as he's saying, follow us on our Facebook. Follow us both on X at hockey_2 and at RevandEv. Right now, there's going to be a lot of stuff going out. There's going to be different. Now, please remember, rumors or discussion happens. There'll be tons of discussion.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes there's something more to it, and mistakes can happen. So if we accidentally tweet something out really quick or send out a post, it could be that we accidentally sent out a wrong account. We will correct it. That does happen sometimes. Yeah. There was a big one that just said about Pierre LeBrun. I don't know if you heard the Pierre LeBrun one. It was the fake LeBrun with the V, and said that Draisaitl is not signing in Edmonton. And this guy got on and ran that thing to the top, and then realized, and he stuck to his words, and then realized he had the wrong account. And that account is built up, so it looks like a lot of people. Be careful during this season that you're following legitimate people that you actually trust, and don't just watch any fake account. But there's going to be a lot of action. We will be back in 1 week with our very final last show. We're going to be here Friday for a special edition. The next week, that final show. So between now and then, follow us. Check everything. Share with us. Help us out. Subscribe. Follow us on the YouTube channels. We need your help around that. By the way, Jacoby Walter has been drafted the 6'4", 19th overall to the Toronto Raptors for all our Canadian friends. So good luck with that. All right, guys, as we say in the famous words of the old Ed Whalen, it's been a ring-a-ding-dong dandy, but in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Cheers. Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.